Hello crafty friends, I have a new project here. I'm making myself a birthday calendar, also called a perpetual calendar, and I'm doing it with watercolors. So I'm using Arches hot press water color paper, the smooth also, and I've just sort of cut it vertically down the center, and that's just going to be the size of my calendar. I am also speeding through quickly and just showing you a quick preview of all of the stamps I am using, but as this video goes, I will go through them in detail in the future. So here I am just sort of making a template of where I want everything. Basically, perpetual calendars don't have your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They just have the date listed, and then you can write in your birthdays or your anniversaries and use it every year going forward, because the Mondays and Tuesdays don't change. And on February, you'll just put in 29 days, even though some years have 28. So what I'm doing here is just sort of working out how much space I want per line to write with, and then figuring out how much I want for the titles, and then finding out roughly where the hole I'm going to make at the top, so I know how much space I've got to put the image in. So I've sort of worked it out, and for 29 days I need 7¼ inches from the bottom, 30 days I need 7½ inches, and for 31 days I need 7¾ inches. And then for my January, my month title, I'm leaving myself a ½ inch. And then I'm also having the hole at the top, which I'm going to just punch out with a crocodile at the end, or if you just don't have one, you can use a hole punch. And that's going to be a ½ inch down from the top. So that, whatever the remainder is the space I have for the image. So I'm stamping the image in Distress ink, so Tim Holtz Distress ink in antique linen. And it's because I want to have a no-line watercolor look to this calendar. I want it to be quite sort of artsy and I don't know, maybe not soft, but I just want it to have sort of an artsy feel with the no-line watercoloring. And earlier I showed you I'll have to learn how to do some calligraphy again. So there is a book that I showed you at the beginning called Creative Lettering and Beyond, and that's sort of where I'm going to get my fonts, and I'm just going to handwrite them in myself after a bit of practice, of course, and then I am going to do that later. So this is actually going to be a part of a series. I'm going to do one a month. Basically, I'll watercolor it one at a time, sort of one a month, and I'll upload each month, which is good for me because now I've said it, so I have to do it. So I'm going to just, this video is really just the intro, the prepping. I've stamped everything out on onto my paper just to make it work, and then I'll watercolor it, and last I am going to write in it or put in the hand lettering and everything else like that. So I'm going to start with April being my first month as far as the watercoloring, because we are already partway into the year, and even though I thought of this in January, it's taken a few months to organize myself and learn how to do a voiceover, because if you've watched any of my YouTube videos before, this is the very first voiceover I've ever done, which was, quite daunting for me, I suppose. I'm still a little bit nervous, but anyway, here I go, because I need to learn this sort of thing, so hopefully I get better with practice. The stamps that I'm using, basically I've just gone through my stash. I've picked out some really pretty images that sort of spoke to me, things that I really liked personally. And I've sort of gone for that artsy sort of feel, so I haven't gone too much in the way of cutesy. I very much do love cutesy, and if that's the direction you want to go to make your own, definitely just pick out what you feel you'd like to look at every month. And I wanted to do an artsy one in watercolor, just because that's what I felt like I wanted to do. And of course I had to pick out stamps that would fit in my space. So for me, I've got either 3 to 3½ inches of image space at the top, so I was picking images that sort of would fill that space. And of course, I'll speak a bit more about the watercolor paints I use on the monthly videos going forward, but I'll be using artist grade, and that is purely for your light fastness, so they don't actually fade over time, because I don't want to do all this work and the image fades because I used a student quality or lesser of a watercolor to do it. So ones I would avoid using would be like your Distress inks or even your Zig clear brush pens and Tombow markers. I have noticed that personally those have faded. So I've got some Schmincke watercolors and a few Daniel Smith. I think I'm going to mainly use those. I think also the Peerless would work well because they're an artist grade, and also your Inktense watercolor pencils would be artist grade as well. So just sort of research that. And if you don't have any of those, you can always do like a pencil crayon or Copics or whatever. You just sort of change up the paper and the inks you want to use when you're doing all your prep work. And for me, I'm doing watercolor no line, so that's sort of where I'm going with this. So as far as the actual stamps I've used, I've sort of just, like I said, I picked them from my stash, and I've got, let's see, I might as well start with the one they're working on right now. So this one is from Purple Onion Designs, and it's Spread Kindness, and it's called Tiny Dwelling is the stamp set. I still haven't figured out the best way to stamp red rubber clings in my Misty because you can't see through them, but I just need a bit more practice on that. And this one here is from Concord and Ninth, and it is the Unicorn Awesomeness stamp set. So I wanted to use the unicorn for that one. Previously, in the February month, I had Picket Fence Studios Have a Wonderful Wintry Day, which was the little bear sitting there having a cup of tea with somebody. And I've also used Penny Black Touch of Whimsy, which is a very old stamp set and still one of my first that I bought and still one of my favorites. And on screen right now, I am using Waffle Flower Happy Day. It's one of their Big Bear and Bird stamp sets, and I've got specifically the bike one because I love the Tour de France, which is always in July, and that's the month I'm working on right now on screen. Also previously, let's see, I'm not sure which ones I've done. Oh, and also the very first one in January, I used another Purple Onion Design stamp, and it is called Snow Trees. From this, the set was The Sweetest Season from Stacy Akula. And then here I'm into August, and I've picked a Penny Black one, and it is called A Day in Paris. And I really like the girl reading the book, and I've used a stack of books as well, and I just sort of masked off the little puppy next to it because I didn't really want a French puppy in there. I just sort of wanted to be more generic. So I've done that, and as you can see, I'm sort of double stamping it because I'll be doing this all year long, so these ink will fade slowly over time, and I'm like, I wanted to double stamp it, so it's easier to record so everyone can see it when I'm filming, and also just so it doesn't fade by the time I get to the last month, because it is quite the project. This took me, I've sped this video up altogether 8 times, so I think it was a couple hours worth, 2.5 hours worth probably of prep work by the time you sort of, even more, maybe 3 hours by the time you go through your stash of stamps and pick out your favorites, then narrow down just to 12 and go through all that sort of thing. So here, I'll just interrupt myself. I'm using a Flora and Fauna stamp set called Pop-Up Camper, and I'm using that because my family, we love camping and we love campers, and this is, usually you can see caravans or the old type of caravans, but this is the only stamp set I've seen with the actual pop-up camper. So that's really fun, and I wanted to use this one. And I've used a few overgrown flowers on the round of it because I just thought it was a very cute scene, or I don't know, interesting scene anyway. So I've tried to leave some white space too. I haven't made my scenes really full. They're usually just 1 or 2 images to make the scene. Here I'm using Waffle Flower. It's another Big Bear and Bird stamp set called Boo, and obviously because it's October and I wanted to put a Halloween image on it, and that is my favorite Halloween image I have. And here I am just marking out. So what I've done, I just mark out it's basically a 1/4 inch per day. That just gives me some room to write in people's names. Here I've sort of skipped and I'm doing December's. And this was another waffle flower, Big Barren Bird, and this is the Holiday Thanks stamp. I know it's way big for what I'm doing, but I really like this big bear, and I thought he'd be perfect because he's giving a present. So I wanted that image, and I made it work. And here I've got, this one is from Gorgeous, and it is GJCSA6017. And I think it's just called Sowing the Seeds, because it doesn't really give me a good name on here. Yep, Sowing the Seeds. So I really just thought it was really fun that she was planting stars. And so I put a little moon in there, and I put her stars in there as well. And yeah, it's just, they're all sort of images that I wanted. And there's one I missed earlier. It's actually of a girl and there was a bunny, and it's called Stamp Evie, or that's the brand. And then the actual stamp is, let me just see here, called Yolene. So yes, and here I am. I have a gray clean mount stamp set, and this is another Gorgeous one. This one is called the Foxes, and I wanted to cut out the foxes so I could just sort of put them where I wanted them, although I totally messed up when I was doing my masking and did it in the wrong order. So the foxes are a little bit further away than I thought, and I wasted some time masking for no reason, but yeah, anyway, these things happen sometimes, so I didn't beat myself up about it. I just made it work, and I just really like this image with the girl in her little beanie and the two foxes. So this is going to be for my November here. So we're getting close to the end of the video. I've got about another minute of talking or so, and I just wanted to yeah, I'm just cleaning the stamps, and basically here I'm just masking. Like I said, it kind of didn't really work, but anyway, I will be loading these videos once a month, hopefully before the month starts, so you can play along if you want to. If not, if it's in the future, well, you can just sort of skip ahead and watch them, which ones you want. But that's sort of everything I've got here for today, so I hope you've enjoyed my first voiceover video, and I haven't stuffed this up too much. And have a great day, guys. Enjoy your crafting, and hopefully you had some time to do some today. All right, see ya. Bye.